looking for Jewish students that will become the leaders on campus, that are able to articulate an effective and appropriate response that speaks to people that may not necessarily know too much about the Middle East or Israel or the Palestinian issue.
You come in with all these preconceived notions and the way you think things are, and everything is sort of black and white in the way you've always been told.
I think Dr. Manzarov challenges you to think in a way that I've never been challenged to think before. He makes you ask the question, how do you know?
That was the big takeaway of the course. How to empathize, how to understand, how to question what you know, and question what they know, and question everything. Don't take anything for granted.
What you have from so many well-meaning, well-intentioned advocacy organizations is that an advocate is a lawyer. I don't want to sit and talk to a lawyer.
Professor Manzarov made a very big emphasis on never once saying his opinion on any issue. When we would say, well, what do you think about this? He would say, what does it matter what I think? You should make decisions for yourself.
We've had students with professors that have had known political anti-Israel stances, and these students wind up with A's and A pluses in the class. I remember one student told me at the end of the course she got an A, and the professor called her over one day and said, come over here. He says, where did you learn all this stuff? And she said, I learned it in Israel and Jerusalem in a course I took over the course of the year, and it's just floored me. I said, this is the type of stuff you learned in Israel?
Arafat stand up and said for the first time that BLO recognized the right of Israel to exist as a state, which has never happened before.
There was a point in the discussion where I remember thinking to myself, wow, I disagree with so much of what you're saying, but I understand you.
ואז אנחנו אומרים לו, כל התחלה יהודית מתחילה בשכם, לא מקרה אחד, 4 שכבות. ואנחנו מעיזים להגיד לו, לא משנה אם יש כיפה על הראש או אין כיפה על הראש, אבל לא תמצא קשר קודם מחייב בין העם היהודי לארץ הזאת, אלא מאותה הבטחה.
That oft repeated slogan, like it's our historic homeland, that's our right to build there, this is where our forefathers traveled, is really nice speaking to an audience like me, but it doesn't really work. And just repeating that is ineffective.
Yisha Shema Pano Ilek, Uya Shemlak Shalom. Shimu Itshemi Albani Yisrael, Wani Berrekim.
It's Birkat Kohanim.
Ivanta is a Besukani, is Birkat Kohanim.
A professor at Al-Quds University named Nadia. And it was really interesting hearing her speak because she was the first Palestinian woman who I'd actually, had a dialogue with. Hearing her unique perspective because she, 10 years ago, was thinking about becoming a suicide bomber and is now talking to a group of 10 Jewish Americans.
Kippot are related with not religion in our way of understanding. It's related to settlers. Because you usually see the settlers with the kippot and so people don't make the difference. That's why it could look offensive to people.
This course taught me that there's something that goes beyond being an Orthodox Jew in the modern world. I mean, we practice Judaism and, keep Shabbat, keep kosher. No man is an island. How do we interact with those around us? How do we treat people, like human beings?
There was one lecture that Dr. Manzarov gave about whether you want to be a cheerleader or a player. To be a player, you actually have to know how to engage with your opponent. And that involves understanding what's going on your side and what's going on the other side. When you're a cheerleader, you're standing on the sidelines. When you're a player, you can actually make a difference.
The people that are making a lot of noise on college campus, both people that are pro-Palestinian and people that are really pro-Israel and are screaming at each other from opposing sidewalks. It's really ineffective and people walk by and they just think that everyone's crazy.
Again, we think we're creating a more intelligent, articulate, well-balanced person that really can represent what a Jewish student really should be. The fellowship program for our students is really a product of the moniker of JCPA, which is a think tank. We want them to think, and they wind up thinking afterwards.
You know, this portrayal of, you know, the Palestinians all being these downtrodden people. And you see this guy's house, and he's a Palestinian billionaire. You know, and his house is sitting up, you know, on the very top of the hill, and then you look down, and you see refugee camps. You know, while the Israelis would like to kind of, you know, hide the refugee camp part, and the Palestinians would kind of like to hide the al-Nasri part.
And by thinking, they really do what a think tank is supposed to do. You take the evidence, you take the data, you take what you have, you look at it from different perspectives, and then you put it out there. If you disagree, that's fine, but use the same technology and mechanisms of thinking that I used. And that's really what we try to get them to look at the end of the year.